Hey everyone, this is Celine, who's been quite long gone with her videos, I know. But for a while, I've been wanting to share my story about how I finally got my driver's license, because for those who are struggling, if I got my license, then you can too. But a little background to this won't hurt, right? Because I got my permit at 15 years old like everybody else. Or the majority of teenagers in this world. I mean, if you got your permit at 16 or 17 years old, that's cool. But anyway, it took me 6 years to finally get that license and clasp that freedom in my hands. Also, I'm autistic, so that definitely plays a part in this because sometimes I have a tough time following instructions, but that's definitely been improved, of course, or else I wouldn't have gotten my license. Before the very year of 2024, I wasn't entirely willing to ask people to take me to driving practicing or taking me to get my road test by any chance, because either I was too scared to ask or I was too nervous to drive. But this year I started improving myself and prioritizing the goals that I want to achieve. Ergo, that means asking for more driving practices so that I can get my license after taking the very road test. I started being more confident in asking my mom to help me drive and take me to get my road test. I'd also ask Dad, who visits from Florida sometimes, to take me as well. But I had to take my test 4 fucking times this year, with the first being on March 29th. And I want to tell you how I finally got my license on the very day of July 1st, 2024. What a way to start mid-year. I started being more patient and compassionate with myself and just saying in my head or out loud, because I'm autistic, shit happens, without letting it get the best of me. And even if I cry on the road, which is technically dangerous, I stopped criticizing myself this year, which is one of the coolest achievements that I've ever achieved. Well, in a logical sense, it's really important that you don't let past mistakes and tense practices get the best of you, and make sure that whoever is teaching you is open to teaching. Story time. When I was in my early college years, I once asked Mom if she could take me to get some driving practice one weekend, and she was like,
I don't know, you'll hit a tree at 15 years old.
And I told her that it was in the past. I will have improved by this time. But unfortunately, we didn't really get around driving that weekend. So then eventually I started looking to Dad to teach me how to drive, because Mom did have the views that she did, but she doesn't anymore. More on that later. And I especially got really good driving lessons from him when I was staying with him in Florida last year. For the being sure of myself part, I was always a good driver ever since I was 15, but I definitely wanted to work on turns, speed control, and especially listening skills in order to get my license of freedom in life. But last year, I wanted to get my license to be more responsible for the sake of taking accountability and stop asking people to take me places. And anytime that I messed up on the road, I would internalize that guilt and shame, because I easily get annoyed at mistakes, even though they will happen. It's life. But I did change the trajectory of getting my license, which was to have the freedom that I always wanted, go the places that I wanted to go in my own terms, just improve such an essential life skill, and just be in the place of billions of people who drive just fine. I even asked my big sibling once. It was a fun drive around a nice neighborhood, even if it was on a Camry. More on that later. I needed to get the experience of taking the road test, because I always knew I was a good driver. It just came naturally to me when I took lessons from my school driver's ed. And even if I did admittedly take long breaks throughout the past years, I was still good at driving with my dad last year. He taught me so much throughout half of July last year. Most times I was nervous to ask him to teach me how to drive because of the anxiety of having tension among us when I made a mistake on the road, but it's life. He was just looking out for me and making me laugh so I don't get emotional behind the wheel. He even took me through 55, 60-mile roads, and I actually enjoyed driving in that type of experience. There were really nice highway views during the night, and it was just a really entertaining experience. But I still ain't sure as hell if I want to drive a 75-mile road yet. This year, I started asking mom if I could drive to work and sometimes from work depending on what time I got off. When she taught me for the first time within this year, we went around our city to work on 3-point turns, and I was getting really good at them, and we both knew it was going to be on the test. She also took me on the roads of Columbiana, but that was a pretty tense practice because I didn't know the roads very well, and that's okay, it's in the past. But we went to Columbiana sometimes instead of the one that's near our city because one, the one near our city was too busy, or two, Columbiana was not as busy. Hey everyone, quick interjection, this won't take long, but this video is sponsored by my new song called Hot. You can find it on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube Music, Amazon, Deezer, and lots of other streaming platforms as well. This year is a perfect year to get in tune with your hot girl summer spirit. Your hobbies, work shifts, and drives will be sweetened, spiced, and especially hotified as soon as you turn on this song full blast. Manifest such prosperous confidence so that when bitches judge, turn the other cheek and keep slaying. Bring your hot girl talents to life. 아무도 보고 있지 않은 것처럼 춤춰요. As I'm about to read in a couple minutes, go ahead and check out my song on any streaming platform of preference. Oh, and thank you guys so much for 27 monthly listeners on Spotify. Again, thank you. I chose really good strategies of having a better chance of getting my license and obviously learned from my mistakes. First try near my city, my examiner told me that I sped up a little and forgot to turn on my turn signals, but funny enough, I only remember to turn on the turn signal at the very beginning. And second try in Columbiana, I messed up on the roundabout. I didn't go all the way like I was asked to. And second, I was using a different car and my turns were too heavy. That's what my examiner told me. And I will definitely get to telling the story of my fourth try. Right after my second test, I asked mom if I could still practice driving to work, and that is where my turns have actually improved because that's how dedicated I was to improving my skills to get my license. And speaking of Columbiana, that license office is comparably more relaxed than the one near my town is. The examiners are not so tough, but they do want to make sure that you're keeping yourself safe and the examiner safe and just making sure that you follow instructions. My mother's car has a full power steering wheel, so I can easily turn on that. But when I drove my siblings' Camry for the second and third test, I had trouble turning so easily because it's a variable power steering wheel, and my dad demonstrated how that worked a little after my test. It's funny because I turned quite okay on my second try, but then I felt so heavy on the third, so I was really confused as to why they were so heavy because after the second try, I've improved on my turns. So then I came up with a strategy that consists of improving my confidence, obviously, turning with the car that I have practiced more, which is my mother's, going to my preferred license office, and taking the test with an examiner who is admittedly not so mean. We did it, Joe. We made it to fourth test. July 1st, 2024, Mom and I went to Columbiana yet again, but before we went in to take our test, she showed me how to do the roundabout that I messed up on. I did well on it. I just needed to speed up so the cars didn't go too slow either. When I got my picture taken, as well as my information covered, I saw the same person who tested me on my second try, and I've always liked him because I saw him as humorous. But when I was sitting in the car, after all of that happened, I didn't know if he was going to test me this time or somebody else, because Mom had a speculation that somebody else was going to test me. In fact, somebody else did test me. It was an old lady who was very kind. She was calm, reserved, and pretty soft-spoken. Mom asked another person who was taking a test with her, and she asked, "Is that old lady kind?" And the person was like, "Oh yeah, she's very kind." And Mom was like, "Oh, thank God." The lady took me through a roundabout and took me right up the city where I did a 3-point turn and went to another road to back up until it was safe for me to stop. And then we went back to the city where I did a couple turns. And then back to the license office. I made sure to turn on my turn signals throughout and be in control of my emotions throughout. Sometimes I felt like I need to speed up just a little more, so I would give a little squeeze on my accelerator sometimes. When I was getting done with taking the driver's test, I actually did a perfect parking job according to my mother, and when the examiner told me that I passed, I was so relieved and hysterical that I ran into my mother's arms. My mother took a picture of me in such a happy state. And after such celebrating, we went back into the license office to go over more information, and the lady punch-stapled my driver's permit with the word void. That means I don't have to use that permit anymore now that I got my license. But I also learned that I have to get my own insurance first before I drive alone. But I did get a hard copy of my license within 30 days. I got it a couple days ago. The end. Now, I would like to close off with some tips that I would love to share with you. Choose your preferred license office if you can. This is kind of by luck if the examiners are nicer, but I'm sure lots of other examiners are nicer. Take the test in the car that you're most comfortable with. Find what kind of systems in the car and where the gear shift is, for example, works best for you. Mine is a full power steering wheel. If you want to see the progress in your skills, keep asking the people in your life, because you need to revisit that progress again and again in order to actually reach your goal. Believe in yourself. Don't let any mistakes or tension get the best of you. Hey everyone, Editing Celine here. I just want to discuss the importance of not letting the anxiety of any possible car wrecks get the best of you. Even if I don't often feel any possible car wrecks happening before I drive, I just want to be aware of a lot of the people who have the anxiety of car wrecks. And just letting you know, as I've been told at least, most accidents happen in parking lots. Practice in many ways that you feel comfortable in, and just keep improving from there and going in different places with the passenger. And what's also really important is gaining the familiarity with the roads that you drive on so many times. So in that case, you don't get into a lot of wrecks and you know what to do. Best person who knows you best is yourself, so you better let them know that you can improve so they can see the progress in you just like you can see the progress in yourself. Well, I believe that'll be it for today. If you like this video, give this a like. If you want to share all your thoughts in the comments with me, put it in the comments. I love reading comments. And if you want to see more of my videos, subscribe to this channel. And if you don't want to miss any of my videos, turn on the notification bell so you never do that. Remember, keep driving, and I'll see you in the future videos. Celine out.